are. Well, welcome to another exciting episode of the Justice Plan TV and podcast show, where we bring you innovative ideas to make your wedding day truly unforgettable. As always, I'm your host and professional wedding MC, Nathan Cassar, and today we're delving into the sweet world of weddings with a very special guest, Venessa Miller, the creative mind behind Carrelli D'Amore. Now, Vanessa's journey into the gelato business began with her own wedding planning, where she encountered slight lack of personalized service in this particular niche industry. Determined to fill this gap, Vanessa and her husband Shaun launched Carrelli D'Amore, a brand built on the dedication to exceptional service and affordability. What started as a single gelato cart has now blossomed into an entire fleet of mobile carts catering to a variety of events. Now, but Vanessa's story doesn't stop there. A primary school teacher turned gelato entrepreneur, she never imagined herself venturing beyond the classroom. However, fate had other plans when her husband built gelato carts for their wedding. From nervous beginnings to a thriving business, Vanessa's journey is a testament to passion and perseverance. During our conversation today, Vanessa will share valuable insights on revolutionizing your wedding experience with unique dessert options. We'll explore how incorporating a gelato cart not only can cut costs, but also add a touch of magic to your special day. From creating the perfect wow factor to personalizing your wedding menu with bespoke flavors, Vanessa will provide expert tips to make your celebration truly memorable. So if you're ready to sweeten up your wedding plans and learn how to create a dessert experience your guests will never forget, you're in for a very sweet treat. Vanessa, welcome to the show. How are you going?
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show. Really, I mean, look, I don't know if I've mentioned this on the show before. Actually, probably haven't. But I've got a secret. When it comes to gelato, like it's game over for me. As soon as someone says that, it's very, very, very difficult, almost borderline impossible. When I was working on cruise ships in my younger days, I would always manage to find a gelato shop in each port that I managed to get off in.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can imagine that when I made it to Italy, I was like, all right, everybody, like, don't even
In
talk to me.
heaven.
I'm going to go to like each of them and discover what it's like to really have it there. Tell me, like, is it gelato itself? Obviously, it's yeah, I know from the few that I'm friends with, like yourself in the industry, it's a very passionate craft. It's a very family oriented, and it's sort of like it's very secretive in some way because you got to protect your ingredients, like the secret 11 herbs and spices for KFC, right? So tell me, like, what is it like working in like a Freemason style industry where you got to try to keep your secrets together, but at the same time you're really passionate and it's all very hands
Yeah.
on. Like, what's it like?
Well, it is very fun. I feel like I'm a lot of the time explaining the difference between gelato and ice cream to people. And some people have even said, "Oh no, I don't like gelato. It's too icy." And I'm like, "Are you talking about like sorbet or granita?" Like, so
Hmm.
I'm always kind of trying to educate people. People who are foodies obviously know the difference between ice cream and gelato.
Hmm.
Um, but my first part of the explanation is it's more dense than ice cream. So I love exposing, those kind of little secrets. It has less air content than ice cream, so you actually get more product in weight. So that's also quite fun to explain to people because they're like, "Oh yeah, it is quite dense." So yeah, it is a really fun industry to work in. And the other thing is with gelato, a lot of the time the flavors are natural flavors rather than synthetic flavors.
Hmm.
So with ice cream that you would find in like a supermarket or like soft serve, all that kind of stuff, they use like fake flavors like essence and stuff, whereas gelato is the true natural flavors. So if you want to make something like pistachio, you literally use ground pistachio nuts made into a paste and then you whip it through the gelato. So that's quite fun to explain to people too. They're like, "Oh, like, it's quite healthy for me, even though it's full of sugar." And the last thing is the fat content is less than ice cream. So again, because it's all natural, more dense, you're getting, better calories if that makes sense.
I don't know. You have me healthy and better calories and everything else in between. That's what I tell myself anyway, just to make it
Yeah,
feel better as it goes down.
justify it.
Well, I know I can personally attest that your gelato was fantastic. We were just talking offline before we started the show about how I got to again sample more of your products just the weekend gone as of recording. So
Yes.
I definitely know that you know your stuff. You've got fantastic products, and I want to get straight into it by going to look. I think another apart from wanting to have a beautiful wedding, of course, people are really trying to balance right now in
Yeah.
this age, the idea of costs and considering, something like gelato, for instance, it seems really bougie, right? You go to Messina, you go to Gelatissimo, you go to these other big brands, you're paying relatively, you're not paying for, $2 ice cream from Aldi,
It's
right?
not cheap. Yeah.
So then I can imagine that the idea of having a gelato cart, as much as it sounds amazing, right, at a wedding, it can also maybe appear on paper to actually be somewhat really expensive and bougie to do. But you claim, and I believe you, but I would like to hear more about it, that actually
Yeah.
it can really contribute to cutting the costs per head, particularly when it comes to swapping it out maybe for desserts. So I'd like to know more about that because I'm actually really curious how it can cut those costs instead.
Yeah, absolutely. So with some venues, and most venues work this way, you can kind of pick and choose items on your menu. So you can go the full shebang where you get like an antipasto platter, entree, main, dessert, and then you can even do like supper afterwards, like handing out like pizza at 11 o'clock or pastizzis. And, when I say the full shebang, that's what I'm talking
Mm.
about there. But then another way to also cut costs is to cancel out some of those courses. So, for example, you can cancel out the entree if you're getting like big grazing boards for antipasto at the start, and that can act as your entree. Another way you can do it is cut out dessert. So, only order entree main with your venue, and then look at a gelato cart as a dessert option. So when you're looking at the cost per head for weddings, they're astronomical these days.
Mm.
So if you actually do your numbers, by taking out dessert, you could be saving more per head, as opposed to what you'd be paying for the gelato cart itself.
Yeah, I mean, it totally makes sense, right? And I think that flexibility these days of most venues allowing couples to be able to chop and choose and figure out whether or not they really want to go the full Mediterranean experience where you're going to throw every food from your pantry possible, or if perhaps it's a more economical or reasonable to just simply have a little bit more of a reducted options. I mean, but having it augmented by something is really clever and special as gelato is really cool. But you don't
Yeah.
just do gelato, right? You do other things too, correct?
I do. So I do like it started off with just gelato, and then on my own wedding day, my husband not only built our gelato cart, but he built me like a little coffee cart too.
That's cute.
So back then that was just like a pod machine, and it was kind of like a self-service kind of style, which I don't do anymore, but I do like a barista coffee cart now.
Mm.
So that's really fun to have. Like, I'm an Italian background, so we all want coffee no matter what time of day. So you can even have that to serve after the ceremony and or after the reception itself. And then I also do fairy floss, popcorn, lolly buffets, and dessert
Hmm.
tables. So again, if you chose to have like a dessert table and a gelato cart, then you definitely don't need dessert provided from your venue. One other option I forgot to also mention earlier was that like most couples have a wedding cake too, and it barely gets eaten. So again, you could cancel out dessert from your wedding menu and just have your wedding cake and gelato or something else as dessert to go with it. Because yeah, again, you spend so much money on things, especially like something like a wedding cake, but yet it just literally goes to waste because people are so full by that time.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen it happen. I'm often eating more than some of the
Same.
guests do.
I always eat it because I see it there on the table. People offer it to me. I'm like, I don't want it to go in the bin, and it tastes so good.
Exactly. I feel like I'm doing the world a service. I
Yeah.
actually, it's funny, mention this sort of this idea of alternate desserts. I've actually got a wedding coming up this weekend where their wedding cake is not a wedding cake, but it's a cannoli tower. And I'm like, so
Oh,
for that,
I've
so
never
for it.
heard of that. Oh,
I
I
know. I
need to
can't wait
do
to send
that.
you photos because, like, seriously, this
Yes.
thing is when they were describing it to me, I'm like, that is so clever. And cannolis are fantastic. Another amazing,
Italian
e-
delicacy.
exactly what I was about to say. Thank you. Yeah. So, look. Obviously, these kind of things are, as I touched on before, they appear bougie, but obviously you've very clearly made a great case to say that it's a really good thing to actually really consider, and it can really drive down costs, but also provide that wow factor. When looking for, look, of course, as I mentioned, you're part of a niche market, but there is a market of people. What should people be looking for in terms of when they're trying to source an alternate dessert option or something similar that you offer when they're picking from the vast array of people that offer the same service?
Yeah, just value for money. Like, there are some big brands out there that do gelato cuts, and I know what their prices are. But then when you look at, what you're actually paying for in terms of what you get, in terms of like volume of gelato and all that kind of thing, it isn't that economical. You're kind of just more paying for the name. So just be a little bit savvy like that. Like, yes, everyone loves, their good downtown gelato shop, but when you look at having them as a cart, it's probably something that you could do better with other brands and other services. But also look at the flavors too, because a lot of other vendors, although they do like offer gelato and stuff, they only offer us a very select list of flavors, like 10 or 20 to choose from. So a lot of people have come to me and said, oh, I love that you offer so many flavors. It was so hard to pick. But I think that's also really important because not everyone loves salted caramel and, the crowd favorites. You get some people that love some of those more unusual flavors, which is all fine too. But also look at, your background and your nationality too. So for example, mango sorbet is really popular with some of our Indian clients, and pistachio too. Yeah, really, really popular. So if I'm ever catering for an Indian wedding, mango sorbet and pistachio will be the first to go. But then we also offer a lot of Asian inspired flavors too. So like pandan, and taro and black sesame. So again, lots of flavors that you and I probably wouldn't choose ourselves, but when you have them on the menu and you've got an Asian clientele, they will be the first flavors to go because they're like, oh my goodness, there's pandan on the menu. I can't get that at my local gelato shop. So yeah, look at what your background is, and kind of match the flavors to what you think your guests would also like to have and what you and your partner would also like to have. And I also think that it's nice to choose flavors that are also personal to you and your partner. So for my own wedding, I chose like my favorite flavor, and we got Shaun to choose his favorite flavors, and we kind of wrote like a little note on our flavors board. So like my favorite was salted caramel, so I wrote Vanessa's favorite, and then Shaun's was chunky chocolate, so we wrote Shaun's favorite. So again, make it personable about you too. So like try and find a service that also can tailor it for you specifically.
I think I'm in Shaun's camp with that one. I'm sorry. I do enjoy salted caramel, but chocolate really gets me every time. You said chunky chocolate. One other piece of the service you mentioned actually is, well, I know that is really important to you, and this is obviously a really hallmark part of being any kind of wedding vendor, is beyond the product that you sell yourself, which is obviously fantastic. You got lots of flavors. You got these beautiful bespoke little carts, and I've seen lots of little ways of going about that. I just love that Shaun made those for you. But one other factor, obviously, is it's one thing to have these flavors and all that, and to be given the scoop of ice cream and then pushed away and said goodbye, eat now. But there's another side to it where you hope to have a loving sort of experience, customer service wise, in terms of that, service with a smile kind of thing. So how can couples out there determine that the operator on the day itself is also going to be a vibe and a part of the atmosphere, and it's not going to be a really sort of downer touch point throughout the night?
Well, I think, when you're dealing with the business owner themselves, so I pretty much do 99% of the events myself. So I'm not a huge company. I'm very family orientated. I claim that we are a tiny, small family business, and we really are. So like I said, I pretty much serve every single guest myself personally. But then there's, dates, like for example, the 24th of March this year, I'm doing like 3 events in one day. So I can't possibly be there myself and serving everyone. So that I've got staff that also work for me. But I always, I'm very selective about who I employ too. So they need to have that wow factor. They need to be an extrovert like me. They need to be friendly. They need to have that smile about them. Again, I think when you're looking at like huge businesses, large businesses, they're not really about that personal experience. So if you contact me, you're dealing with me, you liaise with me, all of that communication is with me. And like I said, 99% of the time it will be me personally serving your guests. But then when you're looking at it like a large business, you might be dealing with someone else through your emails. Then when it comes to billing and invoicing, you might be dealing with an accounts department. And then when it comes to the actual service on the night, it could be like an untrained uni student who just does that as a side job for like $20 an hour, and doesn't really have much love or care for the actual product itself. It's just a job to them. But for me, it was never about that. Like you said, I'm a teacher, so that's my number one role, my number one hat, and this is my passion and my love, and that's why I continue to do it.
Have you ever brought your gelato to like the school fair days and stuff like that?
So not my own school, just because parents talk, and I don't want parents to think that like I'm trying to profit out of, their kids or themselves.
Fair
But
enough.
yes, I definitely have done it for lots and lots and lots of schools. And my boss says to me, like, bring it to our own school. But like I said, I don't really, I feel like it's too close to home.
Fair enough. Maybe you should send a
Yeah.
survey to your kids in school, like a
Yeah.
TikTok thing, like a parent note, and they have to come back and see what actually,
Hypothetically, what would be your
right,
favorite
like
flavor? No, like
if
all my
you,
students know that I do, because I'm based in the Hawkesbury, and the Hawkesbury is a really small place. Everyone knows everyone. So my students do know I do this on the side, and I actually have been at events, and my students have been there. And they're like, "Oh, Mrs. Miller, what are you doing here?" So that's been fun too, and they love asking me questions about it. But I'm always like, "No, learning first. We'll talk later."
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was the trick, making
yeah.
sure that that was a good trick we all employed back in the day. Talk to the teacher enough, and it's like, oh no, it's
Get out
recess
of
time now.
learning. Where it does, where my business really does become extremely useful is for my own children. So
Mm.
I've got young kids, but my 4.5-year-old is actually trying to pick up on what I actually do. So every time we have a party for them, like, Mom, like, can we have fairy floss? Can we have popcorn? Can we have gelato? Can we have this? I'm like, yeah. So yeah, it's funny when their friends come. It's also quite cute.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that. And it's something to be excited about, right? And I think that joy that you see sort of away from an event, the excitement that gelato brings, I mean, it's pretty obvious that I see it, I saw it on this weekend just gone, and I've seen it in the past when I've worked with you and other operators, that it's just one of those things that I know immediately makes everyone light
People
up and they
happy.
go, whoa, they've got
Yeah.
gelato at this wedding. Like it really, or whatever other type of, bespoke options that you mentioned before, which I'd love to talk about more actually, because obviously, look, there's gelato's a very popular thing. People get it,
Yes.
well, most of the time, and they understand that what it's all about. But you have these other different types of things too. Do you find them to be less popular, or gaining in popularity?
Gaining popularity for sure, but less popular for a wedding dessert option. So if I'm going to do fairy floss or popcorn or coffee, it tends to be more after the ceremony.
Mm,
So
mm,
during that downtime where people have just walked out of the church, or the garden ceremony is just finished, and they kind of go and have drinks under a big beautiful fig tree. So though that's when fairy floss, popcorn, gelato are more popular. Sorry, not gelato, coffee, I meant. So yes, they are definitely gaining momentum. And I think, like you said, gelato itself is like takes you to your happy place. So I think that's probably lots of people's first port of call when they're looking for something unique for their wedding.
mm.
And so yeah, it's all about and usually I get bookings for like popcorn and fairy floss and coffee once they've actually sourced a gelato cut from me, and they're like, "Oh, you actually do that? Oh, we're actually looking for a coffee vendor," or "Oh, we thought that fairy floss might be really lovely to add too." Because again, it's all
Mm.
about the wow factor. Like I'm not dissing the venues themselves, but we've all been to those weddings where you get the 3 courses and it's just like the same stuff alternated, and then it's sad because no one really eats the dessert because they're so full from like the mains and desserts. So that's why when it's gelato or popcorn or fairy floss or something different and unique, or like a lolly buffet, people are like, yes, I'm all there, because it's all about that experience, and like you said, that wow factor.
Yeah, I love that. And speaking to the experience, from sort of like a first touch point to the end of the last, little spit on a bit on their spoon kind of thing. Your particular bespoke carts that Shaun built, how long did it take him to build these things? And more
Oh,
importantly, what specific, obviously apart from him loving you and wanting to impress you and wanting to get brownie points for the rest of his, living days, but what actually inspired him specifically to build them?
so it started off obviously with our own wedding. I made an inquiry with another supplier who's still going today. So kudos to them because they've been in the industry for a while. And they said, "Yep, this is the price." And I'm like, "Yep, happy to pay that." And then because I got married in Bilpin, it's like in the Blue Mountains, and they said
Right.
the travel fee was $1,200. And that's right.
Wow.
I had that reaction too. And I'm like, how can the travel fee be more than the actual cart itself? And when
Mm,
I said that to my husband, he's like, "No, we're not paying that." He goes, "Absolutely not." He goes, "Don't worry, I'll build you a cart." So Sean's a builder himself, but he's also like someone who loves a project and loves to keep busy. So
like a
he's
mad
never
scientist.
one to, yeah, he's never one just to sit down and not do anything. And he loves, getting his hands dirty and he loves a challenge. So when he
Mm.
said he was going to build me one, I was like, oh, like I was just expecting like a backyard kind of thing, like nothing that looked quite pretty or not dissing my husband or anything, but I didn't
Just a
expect much.
wheelbarrow with like a nice little curtain
Yeah,
over it. Like,
yeah,
here
with
you go.
like a thing of ice, a wheelbarrow filled with ice, and like the gelato sitting on the ice. But when he built my bikes, it took a while, and specifically just to like understand, where to place the shelving and all that kind of stuff because you can't drill into a freezer. The first freezer that we bought, Sean did drill into it, and then he popped the gas
Oh
canister, and
no.
obviously the freezer couldn't be used, and so we had to quickly go and buy another one. So like just kind of teething issues like that took a while to work out. But once he built the bike, so the tricycles are the ones that we first built. And then after that, the tricycles are great, but they can only serve 4 or 6 flavors. And so then he's like, I was getting like some corporate bookings by then where they wanted like 12 flavors, or they wanted more volume. So if you're catering for like 3,000 people, you
Mm.
need like at least like 70 tubs. And obviously my bikes can't hold that much. So Sean obviously saw that I was getting quite busy with these corporate events. And then he's like, maybe we should build a bigger one. And then we built the polished glass house, which is the huge one. That one can serve lots and lots and lots of gelato. But again, it took him a while to work out how to fabricate it because again, you can't just drill into the freezer itself. The canopy, when we first started out, the canopy was held up with like screws on the side, but then we realized you can't go to a venue and use a drill to unscrew it and screw it. So then he made like telescopic poles. So again, like over the years, he's refined his art. But he's gotten faster as he goes because then my little gelato cart Bambina, which is my latest one that he built, it was literally I had the booking and it was literally like an hour before the booking or I had to leave. It was at Burnham Grove Estate, which you and I have both worked at before
Yeah.
too. He was putting on the finishing touches literally an hour before I had to leave. So he's gotten faster as the years have gone on. But yeah, he loves a project. So I guess that's where he kind of decided to take it on board. And like it never was meant to be a business. Like I said, with my own wedding, it was always just going to be like something fun for our wedding. And then after it, Shaun said to me, like, there's a niche market there, Venessa. Like, you really need to start a business. And I'm like, yeah, but
Mm.
I'm a teacher. I don't know how to run a business. And yeah, for 2 years, I kind of did nothing. And then I really did start. So I started, my first paid booking was 2017, and we've been going ever since. So
Fantastic.
um, yeah, it's been a fun experience to kind of share with him.
Has Shaun ever served the gelato at a wedding or an event?
Oh yeah. So at the start, he would always work for me because, like, especially with the glass house, you do need some. Most weddings, you need 2 servers, so he would do it. But Sean's a really messy person, so he would serve it, but then just drip it everywhere, and I'm like forever like behind him cleaning it. And he's also like a giant, my husband. Which means he's got size 15 feet, which means his hands are just as big. He's got these enormous hands, and it's hilarious because the disposable gloves don't fit his hands.
Wow.
So yeah, it would be funny because he's like, trying to squeeze on these gloves with these huge like hands, and he's like, trying to serve, and people are just like laughing at him.
I
Um,
hope we get to work together because that would be
oh,
fantastic
he's
to
a
watch.
great
It's like
guy.
Andre the Giant serving you
Yeah, it is.
gelato.
He's
Like, here,
like
little
that.
girl, you
Yeah.
know?
But one thing about Shaun, which is hilarious to all our friends and family, is that he is the
Mm.
best at fairy floss. So, like, although he's a
Oh,
giant, he does the best fairy floss like domes. Like for some reason, he can just do it so well. So whenever I would have fairy floss, he would always be designated on that. That was earlier, but he's retired for me now with serving. He says he's like, I'm past that. He just likes building them now, like building the carts themselves.
Oh, that's good. Hey, he still contributes in a really big way, so that's all that matters, right?
He does, yeah.
We are coming to the end of this, but I do have some quick little rapid fire questions I want to ask you. We usually do this at the end of the episodes, and it's nothing scary or anything, just to get your sort of hot takes and a couple of fun things in the industry. So first off, first thing that comes to mind, your number one industry wedding trend that you're seeing coming out in 24.
Oh, silk flowers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like
cool.
I say silk flowers, but fake flowers. I see that all the time now. And so I went to a wedding on the weekend and I was like, oh, like these are nice. And I went to touch them and I'm like, oh my God, they're real. So I barely see real flowers anymore, silk flowers. And that's a really good trend, I think, because number one, it's cheaper because the florist can reuse them. So you're not paying for all that wastage. And number two, you can get those nice colors that you can't really get from fresh and natural flowers. So if you want a predominantly white wedding, then you get predominantly white silk flowers or those pastel colors, which are a little bit harder to source with seasons and flowers. So I think that is the number one trend I'm seeing at the moment.
You seem to have thought this through quite a lot. Are you going to expand into floristry at some point?
I have a little bit, like not for a wedding. I've done so for our dessert cart. There's like these beautiful white silk flowers on it, and I did do that myself. So
Cool.
when I do like backdrops and stuff, I've got like floral arrangements I can also put on the backdrops. And so again, I did them myself.
Nice. Very cool.
I do not claim to be a florist at all, though. Like that is a niche market also that I'm not willing to steal from anyone who's done all that training.
You've already got a lot going on right now with it being so popular in the gelato business. What is one of the funniest things that's ever happened in your job to date?
Oh, like just people who are funny when they order flavors. Like I was doing a year 12 formal at the end of last year. And as you know, 17 and 18-year-olds, most males at that age are a bit surly and a bit like cross and, don't have much conversation. But there was this one guy that came up to me and he was so much personality and so much energy. And I had these like really nice flavors. And then I go, what would you like? And he's like, I'm getting vanilla bean. I'm going all out. I'm taking a risk. And I was like, because, vanilla bean is normally the most boring flavor.
Yeah.
So like the way that he said it, I was just like, oh, you're actually quite funny. Like, I like that. Like, I love people who are funny. And the one question I always get, which is, it used to be funny at the start, but it's not so funny anymore, is when I've got the tricycles, is, did you ride them here all by yourself?
God.
And I'm like, now I just say, yeah, I came all the way from Windsor. I rode this tricycle on the road. Like, so again, people try to be funny when they're ordering, which is nice. Like, I like people who are funny. I like people who are outgoing. And
I like that.
But then also the speeches, like there's been some funny speeches like that I've witnessed. And again, like I love listening to people, make fun of each other, but also have a go. But to any of your listeners out there, please do not start your speech with, "Hi, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Venessa." Don't say that. Everyone says that.
They're going to hear that. They're going to hear that, and they're still going to do it, and it's going to happen.
Don't do it.
You know it is. It's more often maid of honors than it is best men, but best men do it a little bit here and there.
I find it's mainly best men.
Wow, see, I've had the opposite actually.
Oh, you've had the opposite. Okay.
See, I've only had it. I mean, yes, it's happened for both, but I've noticed that the best men will do it almost ironically, as though they're sort of, taking the mickey out of it a bit, because it's a common trope. Whereas like it's genuinely, after I've done this whole intro for both of them, whatever, and it's like, okay, now you're maid of honor, you're Sarah. And then it's like, all right, for those who don't know me, it's like, what? I just said
your name.
It's so funny though. You're right. Oh well, like we've honestly ran out of time. I could talk to you guys, talk to you forever. Honestly, gelato is one of my favorite things. I'll have to release a photo soon of me on my birthday. A number of years ago, I was in some Italian port, and I was just over the moon. The first thing I did was get gelato, as I promised that I'd like to do. So I'll have to find that somewhere. I'm sure you'll enjoy that photo. But in the meantime, how do people find you online? How can they get in touch? How can they book you to ride your tricycle to the event so that you can serve gelato?
So just Google the business name, Carrelli D'Amore, or with the Aussie accent, Carrelli D'Amore, which is what people call it. But Carrelli, Carrelli, and then Damore. If you Google that, it will come up. I am on Google on the first page too. If you Google Gelato Cart Sydney,
Expert.
that took
Love
a while
it.
to build up, but I got there in the end.
Good on you.
Instagram, same thing. Carrelli D'Amore will come up straight away, and Facebook. But I feel like Instagram's better for weddings these days. Like it's you got more of that, tailored to you and what your style is. So definitely hit up Instagram.
Excellent. Well, I hope that we get to work together again
We
shortly.
will.
It's always a pleasure when I see Gelato Card on the list. So
Yes.
good luck with everything, and
Thank you, Nathan.
I look forward to seeing you again, and hope your one coming up. You had 3 weddings coming up soon on the same day.
Yeah.
Good luck with it. Good luck.
Thank you.
Every
I'm going to
single
need it.
second.
It's going to be a busy day. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Just As Planned Wedding Podcast. Please like and subscribe to let me know that you want more videos just like this one. And of course, please follow us on our socials at Just As Planned Wedding on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for more expert insights to help your wedding go just as planned.